Welcome to But Enough About Me, a podcast about other people. My name is Tyler Andrews. I'm a Nashville-based photographer, husband, and father. I'm trying to collect the stories of everyone around me, whether we're best friends or total strangers. I want to know what made you the person you are today. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Who'd have thunk that this might be your best social interaction outlet ever a year ago? I sure didn't. I started this because I had so much social interaction, I wanted to share it with other people. Now I have none, and I wish this wasn't my only outlet. But it's okay. It's a pretty good outlet because I get to relive these conversations, and these are all a lot of fun. And just so that if anybody's concerned, don't worry, I'm maintaining social distancing. All of these interviews were done months ago or a month ago, and so none of these folks have been in my office since we were told to stay away from everybody else. It's all good. It's all good. Speaking of interviews, today's interview was a lot of fun. I met today's guest when my wife and I went out on a double date with the Guzmans. You might remember Mike Guzman. If you don't, go listen to his story. It was really fun. Anyway, we were out on a double date, and the only person in this world that I've ever met who can match me or even beat me for social extroversion is Paige Guzman. So when the two of us are in a group and we see strangers we don't know, it's pretty much guaranteed we're going to start talking to them. So we went out for dinner. We ended up at Starbucks to get some coffee to kind of wind down the evening, and the only seats available were at a giant 8-person table, and there were already 2 other couples sitting there talking to each other. We plopped down, and instantly the conversation began. By the end of it, I had handed out my business card and said, guys, I'd really, really like to hear your story. And one of them, today's guest, took me up on it. My guest is a veteran, Macintosh enthusiast. I guess you're not supposed to call it Macintosh anymore. It's just Mac, Apple. I don't know. The company that Steve Jobs made. Whatever. He loves their stuff. And he is also very heavily involved in naturalism here in Tennessee. Specifically ornithology. That's birds for those of you that don't like $5 words. He's worked at Ascension Hospital Systems in IT for a couple of decades at this point, and he's spent almost his entire career in the medical field. He'll tell you all about it. He is a father and a grandfather and a husband and a blast to talk to. Also, I need to not forget 2 organizations that he's heavily involved with that you guys should check out, especially if you think he sounds like an interesting guy or these topics interest you. The Tennessee Naturalist program can be found at tnnaturalist.org. That's one organization he's heavily involved with. The other one is the Tennessee Ornithological Society, which can be found at tnbirds.org. So if you like my guest and you want to meet him in person, those would be good ways to do it. Guys, we had so much fun talking, and I would do just about anything to meet him again and have another conversation, because right now I'm feeling twitchy. I need some people. It is my privilege and honor to introduce you to my brand new friend, Mr. Brian Hendrix. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
The man behind the curtain.
Yeah. I usually have that pointed away from you so you don't see that.
That's okay.
Brian, when were you born?
I was born August 12th, 1960.
All right.
So I'm a 60s child.
Do you remember the 60s well?
No, I don't. But what I found interesting just recently, I remember we got something at an auction. And it was like a tin that had all the presidents around it, but it stopped at Eisenhower.
Okay.
So I said, okay, that dated it.
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me, I said, who was president when I was born? I'm curious. And I looked it up, and it was Eisenhower. And I'm like, holy moly. Eisenhower was president. I was like, I would have never guessed that. I mean, it just made me feel old. It's like, Eisenhower. It's like, okay, I'm older than I thought. It's weird. It's like my body inside, my mind inside feels 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh my gosh, there's body parts that hurt. To get up in the morning and it's like half an hour just to limber up.
Yeah.
And don't ask how many surgeries, like a knee and an elbow. It's just, it's like youth is wasted on young people.
Absolutely.
But my mind is just healthy. I was just like, oh,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Where were you born?
I was born in Okinawa,
Really?
Camp Kui,
Okay.
in an Army hospital. I was Air Force, and my dad was Air Force, but yeah, it was an Army hospital. That for some reason, I don't know why. Army hospital at an Air Force base. But yeah, Okinawa has a lot of military on it because of post-World War II.
Sure.
The reason I was born there is because of what my dad did in the military.
Which was?
He was a diddy bop,
Okay, what's that?
Morse code intercept operator.
Ooh.
And I never knew that.
Was it classified?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Okay.
The way I found out about it, I remember I was in a new job at Baptist Hospital, which is now St. Thomas Midtown.
Yep.
I was in my boss's office, and my wife had gotten a call. She was trying to call me at my desk. She knew my boss because we were friends. Called her in her office and told her that my dad died. And I saw her reaction. I didn't have a clue what's going on. And I don't know if she put my wife on speaker or what, but she told me, "Oh, Brian." And she told me, "My dad had died. You need to go home." So got home, packed real quick. We had to drive to Texas. Went through all that, went through the funeral. And it was weird. I actually even wrote a short story about it because no memories were rushing back. You know, all this stuff you're trying to think of your dad.
Yeah.
And nothing's really, there's no flood of, I don't know. It's just numb. I think it was the day before we were coming back, and my mom went in her bedroom. She went in the closet, and she got out this big box, just a cardboard box. And she brought it out. This is at night. She brought it out on the dining room table and said, "Here is all your dad's paperwork. He saved everything he did in the military." I was like, wow. And I spent the rest of the night going through that box. I mean, he had every piece of paper. And, of course, you know, in the military, your life is your dad's life when you're in the military. Family does not come first.
Right.
The mission comes first.
Right.
Doesn't matter. You adapt to it. When you're born in that, you don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to leave? Okay.
Yeah.
Pack the bags. Every 3 years, we literally moved from place to place. We literally would have boxes sometimes that we hadn't opened. We'd have to pull the sticker off from the last shipper and put the next sticker on for the next shipper. But I spent that night going through that box, all his paperwork. And that was when I found out that it was a top secret job. Basically, he worked in compounds. These are buildings that, no windows, one door in, one door out, military intelligence. And he sat at a station and listened to the airwaves, listened to Morse code, and copied it.
Wow.
And at that time, literally, even though he was in the Air Force, it was the NSA who was actually taking all that stuff in. You know, they collect all this stuff all over the world at all these compounds, and it was all being sent to the NSA, and they were making heads or tails of it.
Whatever they're doing.
Yeah, whatever they're doing. So, which, by the way, like I kind of mentioned earlier, that's why I'm a Johnny Cash fan. Yeah. Johnny Cash did the same thing. There's a really good article on... before he was the Man in Black, he was the Man in Blue.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, his first band, learned how to play guitar, was in the Air Force. So anyway, that's why I'm a Johnny Cash fan, because my dad was, and that, you know, he was a Morse code intercept as well. But I went through that box, and it was just like, wow, here's pictures of me in Okinawa, here's pictures of me in Germany, Greece, Crete.
Wow.
I mean, I literally grew up, I remember when all the dads in Crete, a little island in the middle of the Mediterranean.
Yep.
I'm playing Little League, and when I look out over the outfield, you know, there's the Mediterranean, you know. And to the right were all these, and I never knew it, there's the compound, there's all the antennas. But we didn't know what it was.
Right.
Hey,
So what did your dad tell you he did?
He couldn't. He never told us anything.
He just said, I work for the Air Force.
Yes, we somehow, and I to this day, I don't know how, I never knew. I don't remember my dad's, it was just almost understood somehow, or you just didn't ask.
Yeah.
So I never knew.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, I went through that box. I went through all the stuff, and it just all clicked. All the memories are coming back. I mean, I don't remember Okinawa per se, but I do remember Germany. I do remember Greece. Finally getting to see the States and Alaska.
So wait a minute. How old were you the first time you saw America?
Gosh, I can't remember. 8, 10. It was Alaska.
Wow.
Anchorage, Alaska.
So, I mean, genuinely, other than sovereign territory of our bases, you'd never been to the States.
And from what I remember, by the way, that got me on a huge kick.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as I read, Mom let me keep the box. I got every piece of thing. I got a 3-ring binder that must be 5 inches thick.
Yeah.
I put all that stuff, all his evaluations, all his paperwork. One of them even was even stamped top secret, eyes only. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have that one, but I do. But yeah, all that's. I mean, there was weird stuff in it. There was a time where they had other jobs too. He was at one point he had to go to firearms training for handgun. Mm-hmm. And he was a courier. So because they had top secret clearances already, they also used them as couriers. He did one time where he had to go to Philippines, and all he did was he had a sidearm and a bag, and he took it to Philippines.
Yep.
Then came back.
Yep. Point A to point B.
Yeah, there were just little tidbits of things like, when they worked in the compounds, they always had a furnace running hot.
Really?
Yeah.
So they could burn paper?
Yes. If Creed had an episode of they didn't want the U.S. government there, especially spying.
Go figure.
Go figure. So, they always had a furnace going from what I remember. And if anything was going south, they had procedures of dumping everything in that furnace.
Wow.
And burning it up. So, yeah, I even met a guy that did the same thing who lived close in Clarksville. He came down and met me, and I just asked him, what was this like? What did my dad do? And he could talk about some of it, but most of it he couldn't talk about. So that was eye-opening. He was in for 20 years. That was what he did for the first 10 years, was just all this top secret stuff. So all the paperwork doesn't have anything that says anything significant. It was just... he was good at reports. Somehow he was good at there's intercept operator where you just listen and write it down, but then there's analysts. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys that take all this stuff and look at it and try to say, what does this mean?
Make heads or tails of it, sure.
Yeah. And I think this is what I keep trying to figure out. I think it was interesting. It wasn't just Morse code they would listen to. They'd listen to all, like, I think if things, like for instance, if a missile powered up before he fired it, it puts off electronic signatures. Mm-hmm. I think they were listening to stuff like that too.
That's cool.
But always sometimes an interesting job. But anyway, that's what my dad did.
Tell me about your mom.
My mom was incredible. She was just... I learned my work ethic from my dad. I learned everything else from my mom. Me and my dad had a relationship of, we weren't close, mm-hmm. but we were. I don't know how else to explain it. There wasn't hugging. There wasn't, it was just an understood, he's the provider. He took care of me. When he was hard on me, there was a reason. He was never mean. Mm-hmm. He was always, I don't ever remember getting spanked and I didn't deserve it. Except for my mom. She used a wooden spoon.
Yeah.
She had wooden spoons this long. They were 2.5, 3 foot long. I don't know where she got them. And she had a stash of them because we'd find them and break them. And all of a sudden one would show up. But, Dad, pull out a belt, couple whacks, you're done.
Yeah.
Not mom. Mom had a spoon, back of the thigh. Oh my gosh. But mom was awesome. She was a good military wife in the sense of she had to take care of us. She had to do a lot of things because a lot of times, I mean, Dad had shift work.
Yeah.
1 year he was sent to Taiwan for a year. This was during the Vietnam War. He wasn't in the Vietnam War. I mentioned earlier, he's intelligence.
Right.
The last 10 years, it got stressful enough. He said, that's it, I'm done. He was actually from what I found in those records, he was starting to see doctors about digestive problems caused by stress.
Yeah.
Your stress can...
Yeah.
And it turns out that happened to a lot of guys. But yeah, the stress got to him a little bit. And he got into MWR, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation, which basically... he was in charge of all the sports, and sports is a big deal in the military.
Yeah.
Burn off steam, things to do, sports.
Healthy competition.
Yes, space gymnasium, everything in bowling alleys, movie theaters, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. He was in charge of that, and he was good at that. And but during the Vietnam War, he got sent to Taiwan to run the MWR there, because Taiwan was an R&R location. When you were sent on R&R from Vietnam, you had to get away for a few weeks. You would go to places like Taiwan and just get a break for a few weeks from the war.
Yeah.
And he ran that in Taiwan.
So do you remember being there?
Oh, we couldn't go.
Oh.
That's what you were asking about my mom. So my mom literally... she had to take care of us for a year while he was stationed in Taiwan.
So where did you guys live at that point?
I was South Carolina. I was Charleston.
Okay. So you're 10 years old the first time you reached...
Eight or 10, something like that, yeah.
Sure. Elementary school.
Yep.
When you first get to the shores of America. Was it... I mean...
That was Alaska.
You grew up in the military. So that's pretty American.
Military brat. Mm-hmm.
But... it's still not America. What kind of transition was that like?
I don't remember it being something major. I do know it makes a big deal now because, for instance, when we lived in Greece, it was incredible. The poor was poor. I mean,
right.
And it was different in that, for instance, I'll never remember. About once a week, there was a guy coming around with a dancing bear, because we lived off base.
Wow.
Yeah, we lived off base in Crete.
Yeah.
And this guy had a muzzle on, but it was a dancing bear, and he would he knew the locations where Americans were.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But he would just play this tambourine, and the bear would dance. It had a muzzle on it. I mean, this is a bear. Can't do that in the States. But,
no.
And he would play the tambourine. And the bear would dance and everything, and and I don't know why they weren't worried, but my mom brought all us kids out. We'd watch the dancing bear, and you know how they paid him? Oh, they loved it. My dad smoked. You'd get a pack of Marlboros and throw it and put it in the tambourine. The guy was ecstatic.
Wow.
Yeah. We had a television, which they just didn't have. I don't know why, because we're talking the 60s now.
Right.
Late 60s now. And there was a gentleman about a quarter mile away. He raised olive trees and goats. Oh, gosh. We had incredible food. He would come over and he would watch. He didn't speak a word of English, but he would watch Gunsmoke. A Sergeant. I don't even know if that's still around. He'd watch all these TV shows. And we got as many olives and goat milk and cheese as we could ever eat.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was the other thing. That was my job every day for dinner. I walked up the hill. I don't know how I remember this. Because I was like, I don't even know. I walked up the hill, turned right, and there was a bakery, a Greek bakery.
Yep.
Okay. And I paid them 10 drachma. It was a little coin. It was aluminum. It had a hole in the middle of it. I'd give him that drachma. He would hand me a loaf of bread. Now, this was the hard crust on the outside, but soft in the middle.
Sure.
Oh, God, I just don't remember. He'd hand that to me, still hot. And I'd walk home, and that was dinner. That was part of dinner.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just, I remember doing that every night. It was just, you can't trade that. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Yeah.
So that was Crete. That was incredible. But mom just when she had to step up, she was mom and dad, raising 5 kids. I'm the oldest of 5.
I was going to ask.
Yeah. 2 younger boys, 2 older boys, and a sister. Oh my gosh, in the middle.
Poor girl.
I love my sister, but oh my gosh, she got away with everything. She's a sweetheart. She's taking care of my mom now. My mom's in hospice, even though hospice is only supposed to last 6 months. She's been in it over a year now. So
She's an overachiever.
but my sister lives with her in Texas and takes care of her. So I love her to death, especially for that. So we're waiting for that phone call. I don't want that phone call. No. So, but yeah, she was just mom. I mean, she took care of us, and I don't know. I don't know what else I can say. She loved us to death, took care of us, and then stepped in when Dad wasn't there.
So you're the oldest of 5. Mm-hmm. How young is the youngest relative to you? What's the range?
Oh gosh, it has to be. See, here's what's weird, and I had to share this with my wife, and a lot of people because they don't understand. I don't really know my younger brother.
Really?
When I left for the military in 1979, my youngest brother, so that would mean about 10 years, 10, 11 years, he was like 7 or 8. So I left for the military, and I was in 8 years, but then we moved all over the place. I only saw him a few times, going home.
Yeah.
So he lived a whole life that I just rarely saw. He lives in California now, but I really don't know him.
Yeah.
I know that sounds weird, but even though my dad was in the military, when he got out, he got a GS job. So he was still working for the government, and they moved him around, I don't know how many times after that. A good way, because he was getting promoted and everything. They finally settled in Texas. But by the time he grew up and left for California, I mean, we might see each other every, just not much. Mm-hmm. So I don't know him well.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
What was the dynamic like in the house? Was your mom a taskmaster? Was it pretty free form?
No. My mom, the wood spoon.
Right.
I mean, we behaved like typical boys.
Yeah.
Now, the sister didn't get away with much with mom, but no, it's just we were just boys growing up.
By the time you hit teenage years, you were in the States, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Teenage years, there was one spot where I actually got to do high school all in one spot. That was Eglin Air Force Base in Florida.
Wow.
Niceville.
Niceville? Is that really the name?
N-I-C-E-ville. Niceville.
Florida.
Yes. It's right near Fort Walton Beach.
That sounds like something Florida would name a town.
Yes.
Sorry,
it's a little tiny town. Matter of fact, Eglin Air Force Base, largest Air Force base in the world. I mean, it's a huge training ground. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just lived in Niceville because we lived off the base. And
you spent
I got to do all of my high school there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. How were you as a student?
Oh, I was I was straight A.
Yeah.
Book nerd.
Yep.
I wasn't weird. I don't think we had nerdy back then. But I've never smoked pot. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it's like. I've never done drugs. Just because I tried a cigarette one time. I remember I was 12. I remember that.
Yeah.
I think that was South Carolina. I tried a cigarette one time. I'm like, oh my, why? What? How is this pleasant? I don't think I even inhaled, but yeah. So why would I smoke pot? I mean, I just didn't connect, to get high, idiot. Yeah, I just never wanted to smoke. So I never did pot. I never did drugs. However, I mean, the few surgeries I've had, the pain meds after it.
Sure.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh yes. I could be a drug addict.
So it's for the best.
Yes. The only time I've ever used drugs is right after surgery, especially my knee surgery. I remember taking 2, sitting on that recliner, and walked by. And my wife looked at me and says, "You took some pills, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes." I don't know why that popped in, but anyway. But yes, Mom was great. Mom was great. Dad was dependable. I guess the best way is I always could trust my dad. He always took care of us. There was always food on the table. We always had clothes. I don't think clothes were a big deal back then.
Right.
Basically, jeans. If I wanted something more, I would have to work for it. I remember Saturday mornings were. This is a neat thing about living on a base. You had to mow your yard.
Yeah.
You could not if and I don't know who the inspectors were that drove around, but if your yard wasn't mowed, you got a letter from the commander, which is not good. You get in trouble. And but that was a neat thing. You could wake up on Saturday morning. You got that 5-gallon tank of gas. You put it on top of the lawnmower and you pushed it down the street. And all you looked for was
people whose yard needed to be mowed.
Yes, you'd knock on the door. $5. I remember for $5 I would mow a yard.
Wow!
But you do that 4 or 5 times in the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, $20. Oh my gosh, we were. So yeah. I don't know. Like I said, Dad was the provider. Mom was the heart of the family. Nothing atypical, I don't think, about that.
No, yeah. What was your first job?
My first job was a scorekeeper.
Oh?
Yes. Remember, Dad switched jobs.
Yep.
He went from intelligence, Diddy Bop, he went to MWR.
Right.
And they always had softball games, baseball games, but there always had to be a scorekeeper. Mm-hmm. You paid umps and you paid scorekeepers to keep score during the games. They had leagues and all that. And my first job was being a scorekeeper.
Okay.
I used to do that, and it's been a long, long time. I used to enjoy keeping score during a Major League Baseball game. Because there's an art to it, by the way. There's ways you do those lines and it's not easy to keep an exact history of how each play goes.
I'll take your word for it.
Oh, there is. Well, think about it. Rundowns.
Right.
Well, how do you record all those, who tagged him out? It's kind of neat.
It's a whole code.
Yeah, it's a whole code. So that was my first job, scorekeeper. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was not hard work.
Right.
I had a pad and a pencil, and it's like, wow, they're going to give me $8 for this?
Wow. Not $8 an hour.
$8 a game.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
But still, that's a couple hours.
You did 2 games.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Tell me about music and movies and all that stuff in high school.
I turned 60 this year, and it is hard to remember high school. I'm serious. I remember one close friend, Daniel Weinstock. I don't know why that sticks in my head. Daniel Weinstock. And what were we talking about?
Culture.
Oh, no, you said
70s.
music.
Yeah.
You said music, and I'm kind of not into music. We don't really listen to music. However, there every once in a while, she's not at home. I get to work from home.
Yep.
So my wife always finds ways to not be at home.
Probably wise.
I'll never forget when I told her, it's like, I'm going to work from home now. And she's like, what?
Why?
Why? This is mine.
Please don't.
So now I work from home, and she's like, oh gosh. So she's a sweetheart. I'm telling you, I will get on that. But I work from home, so whenever she's gone, she's either working she was Grace Works, now it's church, all kinds of things she's doing, and she's not at home. But every once in a while, we'll crank music up just because I don't know. I don't listen to it regularly.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not going to say who she is, I'll just, for some reason, I like some of her songs. I'll crank it up loud and just.
But you're not going to say who she is.
Because too many people, if my friends hear this, I'll never hear the end of who it is.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it to them to
blonde hair.
Find out.
Probably one of the most popular pop singers. Does Taylor come to mind?
Oh, yeah, T. Sweezy.
What?
T. Sweezy. Taylor Swift.
I'd never heard it called T. Sweezy.
Yeah, it's my nickname for her.
Yeah, I actually, every once in a while, crank up some of her songs real loud. I don't know why. It's like a jolt.
Because it's great pop music, that's why.
Well, yeah, but anyway, Dennis is going to hear this, and he's probably, I'll never hear any of this. That was the guy that was with me at Starbucks that we're real
When we
close
met.
friends. He's an Army veteran. I was Air Force. I'll never hear the end of this.
So how'd you get into the military? Straight out of high school?
Well, again, like I said, 20 years, all I knew was the military. I mean, movie theaters, for instance, you'd go in a movie theater and you stood up. The curtains opened. They played the national anthem.
Okay.
Every movie theater in the military.
Right.
See, and you don't do that in movie theaters outside. But yeah, I'm just used to the military. Everything in the military was just what I was used to. The neat thing about high school was, in Florida anyway, my senior year, you could take junior college courses. They counted as college.
Sure.
But they also counted as high school.
Right.
So every day I would go to the school, get off the bus, get on another bus that took me to Okaloosa Walton Junior College, which is not the name anymore. I think it's got a new name now. I did a year of college at a junior college as a senior and continued that. And that was when my dad got out of the military. He retired, and we moved to Pine Knot, Kentucky.
Pine Knot, Kentucky.
Yeah, if you're in Pine Knot, Kentucky, you're either lost or you live there. You're not going through it anywhere. Haven't even been back. We've thought about going back. It's right across the border from Tennessee.
Okay.
I got there and continued in community college, and I was just, people weren't, especially kids. The kids in college were all, I don't know, being raised where, sacrifice is what you do every day. Your parents did it. I don't know. It was just like, I don't like this. There was no base around. There was no, it was just a culture shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
I lasted a year, and I said, Dad, I can't do this. I got to get in. That's a whole interesting story in of itself, just because, told my dad, he says, well, son, I don't have a problem with you going in the military. 20 years, enjoyed it. Military is one of those things, you either love it or you hate it, I think.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground.
Right.
I loved it. Gosh, the things that happened. I wanted to get in aviation. I wanted to work on the planes. I didn't want to fly them because
Really?
you got to be an officer. I didn't. I wanted to continue college, but I wanted to work on the planes. I love doing stuff with my hands, sort of, but working on the planes would be cool.
Sure.
Because you're going to be where the planes are.
Right.
So you get to be where the action is. So that was all done and ready. Got to the AFES station. AFES station is where you get all your medical. It's where you're checked. Okay, it's the last step. You got to make sure you're fit to go in. And they said I was colorblind. The circle charts? I did the circle charts and I failed.
Me too.
Guess what? I'm not colorblind.
Really?
No. Found out that it's like 5 or 10% of people who take those charts fail them and they're not colorblind.
Well.
Yes. So, I kind of got...
So wait, they wouldn't let you in because you were colorblind?
No. I get to go in, but I don't get the job.
Oh, okay.
Working on aviation, working on colored wires,
Yeah.
all this stuff, they said, you can't do that and be colorblind. You got to see color. And, it's like, I blue, red, I know the colors.
Yeah.
I don't understand, but maybe, I don't know. So they came back and said, listen, your scores were really high. Remember I told you I was a geek, all A's. My scores were really high on the ASVAB, Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery.
Right.
Navy wanted me in the nuclear program. I said, no, I am not getting on a sub. There's two kinds of ships in the Navy.
Yeah.
Subs and targets. That's the old Navy joke. But so they said, we really want you in intelligence. I'm like, what? I said, wait a minute. Dad did intelligence. There was they really wanted me in radio. God, well, how do I remember this just clear as a bell? Radio Communications Analysis Security Specialist. What does that mean? Radio Communications Analysis Security Specialist. You listen to radio waves.
Yeah.
You listen to radio, but you analyze. I don't know. I said, okay. They really played it up. Says, you're a perfect fit for that. Your skill set, so I said, okay. All right. I got home, and somehow they told my dad already, and my dad was just upset. He says, you do not want to get intelligence. It's going to be stress. My dad was I forgot to mention, my dad was an alcoholic, but he was a working alcoholic.
Yeah.
Caught up with him at the end of his life, though. I mean, he stopped smoking, but alcohol did its thing. So he found out about that, and he was really upset. So I said, I did not know, Dad. You remember, you didn't share it.
Yeah.
I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, go off to basic training, and the first thing they do at basic training is top secret clearance.
Okay.
I got to get that done. And back then, it took a while. It's not like today, Back then, they literally sent FBI agents
Wow.
back to your home. They were going to have a problem with me because,
Yeah, which home?
well, where are you going?
Yeah.
So that started. You had to fill out a ton of paperwork. Oh, my gosh. Finally, there was a final interview. I passed everything and did everything. There was a final interview. They take you in a room. All that's in that room, there's nothing on the walls. All there is this little steel military government issued table in there. There's a guy sitting in the chair. He's got his badge in the middle of the table facing you. You go sit across from him, intimidate you. Mm-hmm. And he says, Airman Hendrix, this is your last chance. Is there anything
Yeah.
we need to know before we finish up this? There's something you haven't told us. And I guess it's a scare tactic, so, break down and tell him something. And I said, yes, there is one thing. He says, really, what? And I said, I don't want to do this. He said, what? He says, yep, y'all did not tell me what this was when I was at ASVAB or at AFES. I got home and my dad said, because obviously you must know my dad was in this.
Right.
You don't do a top secret clearance on me and not know what my dad did.
Right.
My dad tells me, don't do this, get out of this. So I'm telling you now, yes, I signed the papers. Yes, I committed. I will do it. I am not going to like it, and I'm going to look for every chance to not do it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to cross-train. I'm going to something. I'm getting out of this. So if that's what you want, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So that's all I need to hear. So I left and didn't hear anything for a couple of days, and finally I came back. And I think they were mad. I didn't care.
Yeah.
But they told me we have 3 openings. They said, you can be a cook, you can be a security policeman, or you can be an X-ray tech. That's all we got. And I could have said no. We're gonna start this process over. I'll find something else. However, X-ray tech. What I was gonna do is I was gonna get something that when I'm done in the military and get out, I can use it.
Sure. Yeah.
One of my sons was artillery in the Army.
Not a lot of civilian application.
No. Well, there was one. We found one at some ski slopes. Fire artillery rounds into the
slopes to dislodge
avalanches. So they told me those 3, and I said, you know what? Normally I would have been mad, said, no, we're going to start this and find something. But when he said X-ray tech, I said, you know what? That sounds interesting. Let's look at that. So I went from working on planes to now all of a sudden I'm an X-ray tech. So
Yeah.
went through X-ray school, radiology school. Then I went into nuclear medicine, cross-trained out of that into nuclear medicine.
Nuclear medicine?
Nuclear medicine, yes.
Which is...
Injecting radioactive materials into people.
Oh, okay.
It's diagnostic.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Bone scans, liver scans, it's...
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. I enjoyed that a lot. Matter of fact, that got me... when I got out of that got me... I worked at Vanderbilt at the nuclear medicine program there. That was neat, medical center. And... But that radiology and nuclear medicine background got me into the career I had now. I got to my first duty station, Goodfellow Air Force Base. I was going to be an X-ray tech there. That's where I met my wife. She was Army there.
Excellent. Okay.
Turned in my medical records at the clinic, and the girl there noticed, oh, your pupils is off. Says, what do you mean? Says, you have a different value here, which means you've got something that means you're not completely fit for duty. And I says, really? What is it? And he says, oh, it's colorblind. You're colorblind? I said, no. I don't care what they say. I am not colorblind. She said, really? Did they do the dark adapt test? I said, what? No. I did the little charts. They said, oh, people fail those.
Yeah.
So she scheduled a dark adapt test. A dark adapt test. That's where they put you in a room for 30 minutes, pure dark.
Yeah.
So your eyes get adapted to the darkness.
Right.
They have a machine at the end of the room, just like 20, 30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to tell them what the color is of the middle dot. They put 3 colors up there, if I remember right. And you tell them, what's the middle color? Passed it 100%. But they don't want to do that at AFES because you got to have equipment, you got to have a room, you got to take 30 minutes to do it. Pissed me off. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say it.
I was mad.
And justifiably so.
But anyway, I learned that at my first duty station. So they changed it. So my pules, whatever that value is, were all ones going across it. So I was completely fit for duty. And that's where I met my wife.
How did that happen?
The matter of fact, the girl that got my medical records, the girl in the ER, she had a friend and we double dated.
Okay.
2-for-1 steak night at the NCO club.
Nice.
Yep. And got to see her first, though. Saw her walking away at the chow hall. She was in fatigues. Oh, man. She was incredible. No, they're not tight-fitting or anything, but still, she was just a doll. And so anyways, 2-for-1 steak night, and I was hooked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm dead serious. That
First
was
time.
it. First time. I was like, from then on, it was like I got off work, went to her dorm, waited for her to come there and get off work. She came there, took a shower, got dressed. I waited in the big central community area. Mm-hmm. Then we would walk over to my dorm, and I would get out of my clothes and shower, whatever we needed to do, and then we did whatever we did, and she was stuck with me. I mean, at some point, I'm sure she was like, oh my gosh, what was it she used to say? I was like, God, you're like a puppy dog. Go away. But I wasn't. I wasn't. And we were... Now, here's the issue, though. She was in the Army, stationed there.
Yep.
Which she was in intelligence, too, by the way. She was there for intelligence school. I was there for my first duty station. And so we knew it wasn't going to be long. She's going to get done with school. And she was going to leave. And I think she was going to go to Japan. And that all changed. She did not want to do intelligence. By the way, this is here's a second time. This is weird. She got out of that somehow.
This episode brought to you by Don't Do Intelligence.
Yeah. Well, she even got to the point where she failed tests, and they were changing the tests and passing her. Says, we need you in intelligence.
Wow.
So that all went through, and finally she got out. They sent her to finance school. So she became a finance in the Army. We got married. She left for a year because she was stationed in, I know it, don't tell me. Oh, gosh, where did she go? She went to Fort McClellan in Anniston, Alabama.
Okay.
I was still back in Texas. And for next year, we didn't see each other except for once. So our first year of our marriage was like perfect. I'm kidding. But yeah, that was our first year. Finally, the Army told her, sorry, we didn't issue you a husband when you joined. That was the exact words.
Gee whiz.
Now, the Air Force has a program called Joint Spouse.
Okay.
And it's basically for, Air Force people that get married to Air Force people.
Yeah.
We'll put you at the same base.
Yeah.
Well, they do have kind of a version of it. Well, you married Army. We'll get you close. So they put me at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. So for the next year after that, I saw her on the weekends. Every Friday I would just take off from work, jump on a bus, because I let her keep the car.
Sure.
I would jump on a bus and from Montgomery, Alabama, go up to Birmingham, switch buses, then head over to Anniston. And, I got to share this. Usually she was there at the bus station to pick me up, but every once in a while she had duty. I'll never forget catching a taxi cab to the finance building. She had guard duty. So, and I look in the window, and this is a finance building. She probably wasn't supposed to let me in, but I look in the window, and there's this Army girl sitting there in her Army fatigues, M16 by her side, and she's knitting baby booties. She's literally, you just have to see it,
Yeah.
She's guarding this finance building that has a safe and all this, M16, and she's just knitting baby booties. I mean, that's just stuck in my head. And that was another year. Finally, she's the sweetheart in all this. I was higher ranked, so I made more money, and she got out for me.
Hang on, we have to back up.
Okay.
She was knitting baby booties.
She was knitting baby booties. We don't we don't have any babies. Yeah, I don't know who it was for. This you gotta know my wife. She's knitting. She's always doing something for somebody else. My boys actually we have a nickname for her, or a nickname, because she's always doing something for somebody else.
Yeah.
Always. The boys would, for instance, come home and say, "Where's mom?" And I said, "Well, she's not here." It says, "Oh, she's saving babies in Africa, isn't she?" That was the joke. Saving babies in Africa meant what about us? She's supposed to, selfish boys and dad. It's like, you're supposed to be focused on us. No, I mean, it's till this day, for instance, Valentine's Day, she asked for a truck. I say, what? On Valentine's Day, I got her a truck. Now, why do you get your wife a truck? Well, guess what? It's to help people. Help them move, take things.
Yeah.
She takes care of a community garden. It's like, she needs a truck. So it's like, I got my wife a truck not flowers, not chocolate, a truck.
You could have put the flowers in the truck.
I didn't. She was happy with the truck. She wanted to get, it's just like, you don't need to spend a lot. Here's this nice little cheap $5,000 beat up truck on Facebook. I said, no, I'm not buying some truck on Facebook. I got her a new one. She's happy. I've never made my wife happier than when I got her that truck. I said, really? So now she has a truck. But that's again, she's knitting, that goes way back. She's knitting baby booties from some friend that's fixing to have a baby or had one. I can't remember.
So did you know enough at the time to not, like, in shock, think that she was knitting them for...
Oh, I know it wasn't. That's a good point.
That's what I thought.
I should have thought, you know what? That never hit. I should have thought, holy crap, is she pregnant?
Yeah.
Nah, it didn't hit. Nope.
That's fantastic.
No. However, with that is part of the story. She couldn't get pregnant.
Yeah.
No matter what we tried. We tried for years. She could not get pregnant. We didn't know what was wrong. We went through tests and tests and tests and tests. Finally, they did a hysterosalpingogram.
I have no idea what that is.
They take a contrast agent, and they go in and they don't inject it. They insert a catheter, and they put this contrast agent into your fallopian tubes.
Yeah.
To look and see, is there something wrong? Is there what's going on? And the doctor said, the first tube they did, it was kinked.
Huh.
They pushed a little harder. I mean, literally, think of a garden hose just going boom, just straightening out. Same thing on the other side.
Huh.
So she didn't even have to have surgery or anything. Just the test to go see what it opened up her tube. She was pregnant the next month. Oh, gosh. She wanted 20 kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you had 4?
I had 4. And we would have had more until I said, you know what? I'm going to be the brave one here, and I'll take care of it. You don't have to have surgery. I am not having a 5th kid. We had 4 boys. Oh. I was not a terrible dad.
Yeah.
But I was not a great dad. And I don't mind saying that. I was a good dad. I was okay. I provided. That's what I learned from my dad. But huggy, kissy, it just wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I guess they needed that. I don't know. Oh, my gosh.
So, okay. How old's your oldest? Or when was he born, rather?
He's 30. He's like 35, 36. So from like 36 down.
Okay.
I don't think any of them have grown up.
Yeah.
I don't know. When do guys grow up? When do we?
I know you said you still feel like you're 19.
Yeah, but that's just, yeah. But I mean, as in like responsibilities and being responsible. Taking. I mean, I don't know. I know it ain't in the 20s.
I'm taking time off of work to record a podcast that makes no money at all. So
it doesn't matter. This is cool. This is like this anyway.
It's just a grown-up toy. That's all it is.
No, it's not. This is important.
Oh, well, thank you.
I got to tell you my coffee house story. But anyway, yeah, I was just a good dad. I provided. Joanne's never had to work.
Did she retire out of the Army and
Oh yeah,
stop?
She while we were in Alabama, she put in to get out. They told her no. She was a good soldier.
Right.
They told her no, you can't get out. So she went to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist said she ain't got any problems, but this is stress on a young marriage.
Yeah.
She was able to get out with that.
Nice. I didn't know they could say no.
Oh, what, at the military?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're up for renewal or whatever.
Oh no, you mean reenlistment?
Yeah.
No. She was trying to do it before she reenlisted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it was going to be a while,
Okay.
and I was going to get stationed somewhere else.
Yeah.
She got out. That was a sacrifice I haven't forgot. I mean, it was probably the best thing for us, but
Yeah.
she got out. Yeah, Army bases suck. Oh gosh, they are bare minimum.
Yeah.
Just awful.
Yeah.
Air Force bases, the first thing they make is a golf course. My wife will tell you.
Yeah.
Every Air Force base we were on, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Army? No. They make 4 walls. Oh, it was awful.
That's funny.
Oh,
I
ask
believe
Army
you.
people.
I believe you.
I don't know why it's like that, but it is. So, so she got out, and
Mid 80s, early 80s.
I got out in '86 of the military, so it would be a few years before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started having kids, and then she got out, and then.
Yes. We had a first kid in the military. I was at my last duty station, Wilford Hall Medical Center in San Antonio, Texas. I was nuclear medicine. That was that was Big Willie. I was doing research there. That was the reason I got out.
Because you were doing research?
Well, they pretty much told me every 3 years you generally PCS, permanent change of station. Every 3 years they move you to a new place. Well, Wilford Hall is a big place. It's where you go when you really need good care. And they pretty much told me, no, you're going to be here another 5 years. Your skill set we need. It was a rough time. We were trying to have kids, couldn't. Finally we did.
Yeah.
And when they said another 5 years, we did not like San Antonio.
Yeah.
The heat and we just didn't want to raise kids there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad place too. It's just, it wasn't us.
Yeah.
So that was weird, by the way. That was like when all I knew was the military.
Yeah.
I got a job in Maine because we were going to go back and try where she was born and raised. Mm-hmm. We lasted 2 years.
Yeah.
Maine is cold.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
so you went from San Antonio to Maine?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, it turns out by accident, when you get out of the military, they pay for you to ship all your goods to whatever you claimed is your home of record.
Okay.
I don't have a home of record. We moved every 3 years. So
Yeah.
somehow when I reenlisted 4 years before,
Yeah.
somehow I just put, you know what, Topsom, Maine, where Joanne's born and raised. Well, she's born in Bath, but Topsom, Maine is where her family lives now. I just put that on there.
Yeah.
And that's where I happened to got a job. So it turns out they paid to move all our stuff to Topsom, Maine, and that's where we got a job. I got a job working at Stevens Memorial Hospital, a little dinky 30-bed hospital.
Yep.
They had a nuclear medicine department. So we tried it for 2 years. We were about an hour from her parents. I love her parents.
That's awesome.
Her dad both her mom and dad have passed, but her dad was he's a Korean War veteran. Loved him to death. Her mom, oh my gosh. We brought her from Maine back down to Tennessee when she just couldn't take care of herself as well. She still had her wits about her. Everything was fine as far as we could tell. But she needed to be with somebody. She couldn't be by herself. Her brothers couldn't take care of her real well. The sister couldn't. Really, I got to move my mother-in-law in and take care of her.
Yeah.
And I'm totally selfish. I mean, I'm totally like, you know what? You have 2 brothers and a sister. Why do you have to do it and have her leave the state? Totally selfish. I mean, I was like, of course, you know, the opposite here. My wife, knitting baby booties, all that stuff. So what do you think she wants? And I knew I was going to lose that battle.
Yeah.
The minute I thought about it, I said, "Oh, I've already lost this battle." I didn't even have a battle. It's like I didn't have a battle in my head. It's like I've lost this.
Yeah.
So we drove to Maine, got her, and brought her down. And exactly 1 year, we watched her die of Alzheimer's.
Oh,
that
man.
was tough.
Yeah.
Now that is an event in my life that changed everything. To a certain degree, it changed me from being selfish to being, because she had to have a break too. I mean, you know, like caregivers, but she still did her stuff where she could leave the house. Luckily, I work from home.
Yeah.
So for this next year, I'm taking care of the mother-in-law, making her lunch, and it just totally changed things. I mean, it made me, hey, idiot, you're not the center of the world.
Yeah.
I remember waking up roughly, it was about 4 a.m, and I could tell she was breathing hard. I went in, she had a high fever, and I knew this is it.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's. And I just knew it was time. I woke my wife up, called the nurse, and she died about an hour later, hour and a half later. That was tough. Because we sat there, Joanne was singing to her. So I sat there, I don't know what hurt worst, watching her die or watching my wife watch her die. And it was tough. But that changed a lot for me. So that was kind of a good thing. So she always put an apron on for lunch. You know, she didn't make lunch. I made lunch, but she put an apron on. That was just what she did growing up. When she put the apron on, food was involved somehow. I don't know why that. Still remember that. It says, "So what do you want tonight? What do you want for lunch, Winona?" And which is cool because just a few days ago we have a new granddaughter.
Yeah.
Whose nickname is Winnie.
Nice.
Named after Winona.
That's
and
awesome.
she is the most adorable. Oh my gosh. Do you remember holding, I know you have kids.
Yeah.
Do you remember holding those little things the first time?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I haven't forgotten that with my boys either, but now it's my granddaughter. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Oh. I'm going to ruin this girl. I'm waiting for the time when she says, "Well, screw you, Dad. I'm going to ask Grandpa."
Yeah. It's coming.
I can't wait.
It'll happen.
But no, I won't be that bad. But yes, I just, it was cool.
That's
just
awesome.
had her. But yeah, that's Winona. She's adorable. We call her Winnie. I'm Grand Pooh. But yeah, we both got out of the, or she got out of the military, then I got out of the military, and then worked for ADAC Labs, which that was a cool job. That I got to fly out 2 or 3 times a week. I would fly into hospitals and train them on nuclear medicine equipment that the company made. But yeah, that was fun. ADAC Labs, working for them, doing that, and got out of that, went to Wilford Hall Medical Center, did nuclear medicine there, and then made the change to IT.
Yeah.
Where now, 8-10 hours, I'm sitting behind a computer. Ascension, I've been with them 25 years now. Great company.
And is that when you moved back to Nashville?
Well, I moved back to Nashville for ADAC because it was it was a hub, and we lived in Columbia. We tried Franklin, but Joanne wanted to live kind of out in the country, Fairview. Well, let's put it this way: we kept going further away from Nashville until we hit the house price that worked. $64,000 for our little ranch on 1 acre.
Wow.
Which appraises how much? Oh gosh, the last appraisal was, like 400,000, which is, I guess, not a lot anymore for houses. I don't know.
It's a pretty good return on investment, though.
Yeah, but we've been there almost 30 years. I want to say 26, 27, 28. And I love it. I'm going to die in that house probably.
That's great. So the naturalist stuff, how'd you get into that?
That is one of those things that happened. There's a kind of a few big things that happened that really changed me and how I think. And one was Winona, staying at home and taking care of a human being.
Yeah.
I mean, completely. And then watching her die.
Right.
The other thing was working from home. I had a dear friend that is a manager of Starbucks. The Franklin Starbucks, it doesn't have a drive-through right there on Main Street.
Yes.
It's really not. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Well, 3 days a week I'd go work from there.
Okay.
Just use my laptop, work from there. And what that changed was all of a sudden I'm seeing Fairview is very monosyllabic. I don't know what the word.
It's country.
Yes, it's like there's just not a diverse slice of culture
Right.
in Fairview. There just isn't. That's
Yeah.
not bad. That's not good. It's just Fairview. But sitting in that coffee shop, oh man, I had I don't know how many people I've had sit next to me. I didn't realize who they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I saw all kinds of cool discussions I had. So really, I call it my coffee house experience. But yeah, just working from there 3 days a week, and I'd go in some days at 5:30 and leave when they closed at 9. Just stayed busy.
Wow.
Where before I'm an introvert, now I'm meeting people. We're talking about things. Realize there are people that think different than I do.
It's true.
It is.
Yeah.
And but it was just neat. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, probably, but it just changed a lot of how I looked at things, how I thought of things. And there was something else, and I get this a lot, by the way. My mind goes blank. I can't remember.
The naturalism. How do you?
Oh yes. Thank you. I had a major surgery. I had to get a lot of exercise in. He said the best thing to do is start walking, and we have a really nice nature park in Fairview, and it's like 700-800 acres.
Wow.
Miles and miles of trails. So I started walking the trail. We do 1 mile at a time, and then 2, 3, and I never went to the trails there. I mean, I was so busy with work.
Yeah.
My wife took the boys there, but now all of a sudden I'm walking it and I'm getting into this, and I said, well, this is really kind of neat. Also, because I'm working from home, my wife did the Master Gardener program, and I we had a bird feeder up, and I start seeing, birds.
Yep.
If you'd have told me 20 years ago I would be teaching a class to a gardening club about birds, this ex-military guy, I'd have slapped you.
Yeah.
But no, like I said, right before I got here, there's 30 people in this gardening club, and I'm teaching about how to attract birds to your yard. So all this stuff starts, like I said, because, I'm looking out my window, I'm working from home all of a sudden, and, I see one bird, I see two birds, I think, wow, how do I get these other birds? And I'd go through all this, and we're planting more native, and now I'm up to, I've got over 40 or 50 species of birds I've been able to get to the yard just by how we plant, the bird seed, the suet, how we do that, and so I'm not your typical birder. A lot of birders go all over the place. Cuba,
Yeah.
all just Venezuela, all this kind of stuff. I'm not so much into that, but anytime we're on nature trails, I'm birding. But the bulk of it is, resident species that are right there in the yard. So, but you'd learn a lot from them.
What are you afraid of?
Oh no, you're getting real now. Not being productive.
Yeah.
I hate boredom. I hate where I do doesn't mean anything. In other words, even when I got out of patient care and got into the IT side of things, I didn't. What I do in IT, I can do anywhere. I can do it at a tire company. I can do it at a shoe company. I still stayed in medical care, just stayed in hospitals because that's what I was always trained in. And,
Sure.
And I felt like, I don't know, all of a sudden where I guess what I'm scared of is where what I do doesn't matter. I hate wasting time. It just, maybe that's not, yeah, it's scared. It is. I don't want to, I just want what I do to matter.
Okay.
So there's probably more things I'd have to, if I had this question ahead of time. But what am I scared of? Scared of losing my wife. That's a biggie. I don't want that day. I hope I go first.
Statistically, that's probably the
Well, yeah, but see, so what I shared with my boys, I share with anybody. If you're not all in, you're not in. If you try to protect yourself in a relationship and not go all in, you're not going to enjoy it. There will not be the joy you want in a relationship. You've got to be all in and allow yourself to be hurt, or you're not going to enjoy the good parts. I mean, you got to be all in. And so when you're all in a marriage where it's like, I mean, my wife's here with me now.
Yeah.
We don't go, when we go to medical appointments, we're together. I'm at an age, I don't like doing anything without her. I want her around. But when that's gone, I don't even want to know. But I'm all in. I'm not going to enjoy her if I don't have her.
What do you regret?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. Sometimes what could I have done different with the boys? I don't know. Could I have spent more time with them? It's like I didn't drink. I didn't get drunk. I was there.
Yeah.
I provided. I don't know. That's the regret. If I did something wrong, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to word it. I mean, like I said, I was a good dad, I think, but I wasn't a great dad. I just did the best. I did what I knew I could. Work was always good. I could always do work well. So I always worked. But regret. Maybe that's good. I can't think of something. The biggest thing is what could I have done different with the boys?
Yeah.
Could have spent more time.
That's a pretty relevant one.
Yep.
Who is God?
Oh, that's a good one. Because that changes so much. I was raised Southern Baptist.
Okay.
But not a Christian believer. My mom would say otherwise. I was baptized in Alaska. Well, that just means you got wet. So I was Southern Baptist. Didn't really attend church after I left home. I met her, and she was Mormon.
Oh.
Yes, she was LDS. I took the lessons from the Mormon elders. She did tell me, she's not marrying me if I'm not Mormon. So, got baptized, became Mormon, did that for, my wife would correct me, probably 10, 12 years, I can't remember. And this was a time when I was working for ADAC Labs where I was on the road a lot. So I was out of the quote-unquote influence of the church. By the way, the LDS Church, Mormon Church, which they don't like using the word Mormon anymore. Latter-day Saints is what they want to use.
Right.
I was on the road, so I'm kind of out of the influence. They're very hardcore. Salvation is in the church. So, I'm on the road a lot, and I read books voraciously. I'm like right now, I've got about 7 books I'm reading. My wife can't read at the same. She got to read a book, then start another book. No, I can do. I just
jump around.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember I was on the road, and when I was on the road, I would always find a bookstore. There's a book called Mormon Murders. Oh. I'm like, ooh, a Mormon. Mormon Murders. What is this? Basically, the book's about a guy in Utah that was taking advantage of the church. He's writing forgeries that are embarrassing to the church. And And the church is buying them so they don't get out. He's also one that did some pipe bombs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just weird. Salamander letter. There's all kinds of weird stuff to it. That wasn't the issue. The issue was the book spent the first 2 chapters to understand everything in the book. You kind of had to know something about Mormonism. So
Sure.
it used the first 2 chapters to explain some really in-depth stuff. And I'm reading these chapters, and all this stuff I've tucked away just vomits forward. And I just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
This stuff is either true or it's not. And I could spend hours telling you all this stuff, blood atonement, all this kind of stuff. And I got back and I talked to my bishop. I said, hey, I'm having issues. We need to talk about this stuff. And he said, oh, we don't talk about that. You've got a virus. You just need to.
Wow.
Yes. Major flag.
Yeah.
I said, no. And the weird thing was my wife was in the hospital after just having a baby. And as damage control, they released her from her position as Young Women's president. It's like, what? Wait, you released my wife from her position? They're doing damage control. They know I'm leaving.
Right.
So there's a whole story to that. Because she's starting to have doubts where she's not even talking about Joseph Smith. She's just talking about grace. And, that was probably the thing for her that helped. But the big thing for me, I said, that's it, I'm done. And they even officially had a court.
Wow.
They have what's called an excommunication court. They actually have a court where they have all the powers that be. There were like 12 of them, and they hold a court. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not going to that. But I thought, you know what? Where else do I get a chance to share with these? And I did. I don't remember what I said. Something took over. I don't remember what I said. And I said, because before we went in, we even went in there, the stake president said to me, he says, listen, you don't have to get out. We don't have to do this. Again, back to damage control. I said, yeah, we do. I'm getting out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I shared with every one of those 12, and there was no discussion. They were not going to discuss it with me. I just laid it all out, shared with them. I need answers to all this stuff. I didn't get the answers. They excommunicated me.
Uh-huh.
So from there, we found a little Baptist church in California. We had moved to California. Loved us to death. Joanne left. She became a believer. She left the Mormon church at that point. And then it's been an interesting ride since then. Spent 20 years in a toxic church after that. It's a Christian church, but it was so conservative. I grew up in that church. I learned scripture in that church, but most of it I had to unlearn. Not the scriptural part necessarily. I never realized the whole time, for instance, the pastor wouldn't let women pray in the service. When you had a service in the morning and you opened in prayer, it couldn't be a woman.
Yeah.
I never knew he was doing that.
Yeah.
The women did,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, women are telling me, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Anyway, so what I mean by toxic is it was extremely Bible-centric. This is the Bible. We need to interpret it right, follow the rules, just be damned. And they did. And people were hurt. People left. It took me 20 years to finally say, I can't do this anymore. And after that, we went to Grace Chapel in Franklin. Mm-hmm. Big church.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll make people mad, but the more I tried to grow in that church, I ran up against, you just had to be in the right kind of club. I don't know how else to word it. It was too big for us. But a dear friend of mine that also left that toxic church, we were both elders at that church, by the way. There was a time when there were only 2 elders, me and the pastor who I love to death, but we haven't reconciled. By the way, that's a regret.
There you go.
There's a regret. This pastor of that church, he was hurt, I was hurt. We've never talked about it. For 20 years, we did things together. We were close. Definitely that's a regret. I would like to reconcile that someday, but I don't think he's going to change in his beliefs, and that's fine. But Grace Chapel was just large, and I knew I wasn't going to grow a lot. Finally, we stopped going there. I don't know how long, but we are now. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm a Methodist.
Oh my, you've gone all over.
And I didn't join the Methodist church because it was Methodist. I should have researched it. Boy, they got some. It's an interesting way they. Do you know anything about Methodists?
I do. I was Methodist for a while.
Were you really?
Yeah. As a kid.
Their governance is interesting. We're going on 2 years being in the Methodist church. I joined the Methodist church 2 reasons. We knew all the people there. We loved all the people there. The pastor, coffee house, goes to the coffee house, and I see him once a week. I loved him. So I'm slowly getting back out of this period of, I don't even want to go to church. I hate churches. Get me out of church.
Yeah.
Didn't pray a lot. Just burnt out. I don't care anymore. God knows what's going through me. So I'm pretty sure I'll be all right. Again, I'm a Calvinist, by the way. If you like labels, if I have to put a label out there, I'm a Calvinist in a Methodist church.
Yeah.
Arminians. Yeah. Not all of them though. I'm learning. They're but they're very. I love them to death. We're enjoying it, but again, it's a small church, and gosh, why are people such butts?
If you figure it out, let me know.
Oh gosh. It's just like,
I get it. No, that's it. That's all there is. When I listen back to episodes as I'm editing them, I always catch new things that strike me in a completely different way, something that I didn't catch or pick up on at all during the interview itself. It's always a lot of fun. Today, the thing that I heard that stood out so much to me was how much Brian talked about his dad. The other thing that strikes me is how you can spend hours talking to someone and you still have not even begun to really scratch the surface. Even when you are specifically doing a deep dive into their history, one question at the end of the entire conversation, after an hour of talking, one question: who is God? And we're off to the races on a subject that we haven't even mentioned in the course of that prior hour. How fun is that? If you'd like to meet up with Brian, you can check out the organizations he's involved with, tnnaturalist.org and tnbirds.org. Both great places to find and connect with him and other people who are really into naturalism and supporting the natural resources we've got here in this beautiful state. I feel like I should say something profound about what's going on and all of this. Guys, I'm tapped out. Social distancing, isolation, not good for this kid. But on the plus side, I really am enjoying the extra time with my family. I guess if I have anything I can tell you, it's this. It's the same thing I've been encouraging my kids. This is a unique moment in history, especially in America. Never before has there been a time when it was universally agreed that we should all just stop. The machine that is America works really efficiently. And that's why we have this amazing country we have. But at this moment, for this one unbelievably rare moment, we're all supposed to stop. My biggest fear in the midst of this isn't getting sick or losing people. Those things are inevitable. They happen. And I don't want them to happen, but that's part of life. My biggest fear is that I'm going to waste this time and this opportunity. That I'm not going to take the moment to do the things that I've always wanted to do but never had the time, or that I'm going to squander the time with my family or the time alone to sit and think. So, my encouragement to you guys, make sure you take advantage of this moment so that the you that comes out on the other side is a better, happier, more fulfilled, more developed, more disciplined version of you than the one that went into it. I've never had this chance. You've never had this chance to just sit, to think, to journal, to start the book, to read the book, to listen to the podcasts. to share the podcast with a friend or family member. This is a singular opportunity, and unlike things like September 11th and Pearl Harbor, when they were sudden and jarring and over and done, and we were still reeling from what had happened a month prior, we're being given the opportunity to think and reflect while it's happening. This is rare air, guys. This is unique. If you like the show and you want to find out what Brian looks like, I am a photographer, and I do make portraits of everybody that comes through the show. You can see those over on our website, www.butenoughAbout.me. Also on the website are past episodes, links to all of the various streaming platforms where you can listen to the show, as well as a way to contact me down at the bottom. If you've got thoughts or feedback, or you want to tell me how much you love the show, or how you're really glad that we're going to be taking a break at the 1-year mark because you can't stand the show, well, if that's you, then why are you listening? There's so many other podcasts out there. Anyway, there's an email box down at the bottom. Just fill that out, hit go. It'll come straight to me, and I will read that and respond to you as fast as I can. In addition to those two things, you can also connect with the other two folks that help make this show happen, those being Mr. Casey Jones, who helped out with all the graphic design and the logo and whatnot, and Mr. Jace Hackman, who does our bumper music. You can find more about both of those fine gentlemen at the bottom of the website as well. If you'd like to connect with us on social media, it's a great way to share the show. You can do so on both Instagram and Facebook at /ButEnoughAboutMePodcast. If you want to leave a review, that's only doable on iTunes. But hey, if you like iTunes, if you, like Brian, are a big fan of the Apple biosphere, go over to iTunes and leave a review. Tell us what you love about the show, and then, most of all, share the show with somebody else. My name is Tyler Andrews, but enough about me.